Good morning, everyone. How's it going over there? Saturday morning. Could be more fun. Very large picture of me right now showing. I thought that'd be a fun change, so you'd be surprised to see that suddenly I'm taking over all of your screen. But it's awesome to be back again. It's been 10 days since the last time I ended up going streaming. It's just been a very busy day, very busy time actually. Lots of fun, nothing bad. Just been occupied with a lot of things. But it's exciting to get back into mlops.net and kind of dig into this again and get some traction. It's been awesome to see the contributions that have been made while I've been streaming, which has been great to see the library going forward, and hopefully we can continue that momentum now and make sure we get somewhere that is going to be useful. But yeah, it's awesome. So how's everyone's July going so far? Are you staying busy, taking vacation, getting some good rest, or just digging into work, trying to, I guess, block out the COVID crisis as a whole? I know my approach from the beginning has been to dig down in work and stay occupied, and the more this pandemic is going along, the more I'm trying to take a step back and enjoy things as well. So, all right, Mitchell. Yeah, super busy. Yeah, I guess it's funny, right? Is the UK normally busy in July, or are you taking a lot of time off and vacationing? I know like Sweden is completely shut down right now. There's just July is like everyone's vacation month. They have 5-6 weeks of vacation, and they just go to the summer house. And it's been really interesting to follow the COVID news in Sweden, because they've been saying they have it under control now because the rates are going down. But the fact is that everyone is just isolating on their own summer house right now, and no one's going to work. So of course the spread is going to be reduced. So we'll see in the fall what's happening in Sweden, but I'm not too convinced that they've succeeded in their strategy. But yeah. It's been fun here. Next week is going to be super busy, but that's super exciting. On Wednesday night, I'm going to do an 8-hour workshop together with Bree Ackman and Louise Contilla and John Wood for NDC Melbourne. And due to the time zone difference, it's going to be starting, I think, at 7 p.m. for me and ending at 4 a.m. in the morning. So it's going to be an all-nighter. So we've been putting together a lot of good content for that, and I mean Louise's content on deep learning is really exciting. I know John is doing some cool stuff with the Jupyter notebooks and the data wrangling aspects. Bree is really supporting us with the auto ML parts and other things. So it's going to be an awesome workshop, and I can't wait to also share some of that content with you after that workshop as well, especially the deep learning stuff and object detection and those things. So that'll be fun. But yeah, and then on Friday after that, I'm doing back-to-back talks on Sci-Fi DevCon. Morning, Brett. How's it going? Good to have you on the stream as well. So that'll be fun. It'll be two talks in a row, but one actually that's kind of new, which is going to be on MLOps. I'm restructuring an old one I have on that to make it more, I guess, more in line with what's currently going in the world in terms of MLOps. So that should be really fun. I'm excited about that. And I'm making it Star Trek focused because it's a sci-fi conference, so it needs to be in some way related to that. But should be fun. Well, awesome to have you on the stream today. It's great. Sorry for not having a chance to do that earlier, and going forward we'll do Saturdays for a bit to get some momentum going, and we'll see when we have time to go back to more times a week. But Saturday is a good day, right? So I hope you have your coffee ready. I hope you have your tea or beer or whatever time it is where you are. But I want to jump straight into it more or less. So let's do that. So today, what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to continue working on what we did last time and hopefully get this finished, which is model registration. And you may have already kind of been aware of what we're going to do here, but let's walk through kind of quickly at least what we're trying to fix here. We've done a lot of this already, so. But we want a method eventually that's going to register a model or register a run artifact, if you will. And the idea there is saying, okay, this run, I have this specific run artifact that is super good. I want to register it so that I can later deploy it to test or staging or production environment. So with the registered model, we have a couple of things we want to track here, especially being, you know, which model it actually is that we are deploying. Things like when we actually registered it and who did it, and especially version. So each time we register a new model, we want a new version incrementally, so you can understand then like the transition of things. And then we need the ability, of course, to look at previous versions to understand how they've changed and why one is better than the other. So that'd be cool stuff here. And I think honestly we can build out this a lot. I know, Brett, you've already started looking at labels to kind of label a registered model to give it you know, an idea of why we're doing it, what's different maybe, whose department is owning it. I think there's a lot of use cases here. So once we get it settled, I'm excited to see that PR from you, Brett, and see if we can use that. Okay, and we have some build errors, and I think where we left it last time was trying to figure out this query to get the version, and I believe I finished that just like an hour after the stream. It was a busy day. I was tired. I feel more rested today, so that's going to be good. But I think we figured this out mostly. So we have this create register model in the run repository right now, right? And what it's doing, it is fetching all the artifacts for the specific run artifact. Or sorry, it's fetching the run artifact for this ID. And then we're getting all the registered models where we have a run artifact ID with the same run ID. Okay, that makes sense. So if we have any registered models for the same run, then we are incrementing a version. And that doesn't look okay to me, honestly, because I think what we need to do here is, I was pretty close here, but not all the way. What we need to do here, I think, is rather, do we have any registered models for the experiment? Because the run, we definitely won't have more than one per run, but we will definitely have more per experiment. So we need to change this logic here. But otherwise, once we fetch those registered models, if we have any, then we're going to get the max version and then add one. Otherwise, we'll start at 1. And then we'll just add registered model here, put it in the repository, and save sync here. Cool. So today, let's go ahead and fix this logic here to make sure that we get experiments. Let's add some integration tests to this as well. Let's go ahead and let's see, we want to add, I think, implementations in places here, and then we can also start looking at a method for getting registered models, and based on that we can continue from there. Does that sound good to you all? Is there anything specific you have as questions on this? I know that this PR is going to be useful later, so we can build on top of this one for our deployment scenarios. But I want to kind of hear your thoughts here as well. So speak up. Alright. I will go ahead and get started in that case. So we want to go, okay. Performs better toward by sending on version, it's like top 1. It's possible. We can definitely think about using like a benchmark.net to figure that out. I don't think it'll be extremely different. Do you think it'll be very different, Mitchell? That is worth looking at right now? It's definitely something that could be useful. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. I think something that we could definitely add as well is benchmark.net, so we can kind of get these benchmarks and understand the performance of each. So we can definitely try to make a note for that as well and see what we want to do here. But let's fix this method first. Add some unit test and integration test for it. Creates a registered model just to get this build layer gone for run artifact. Okay, so issue was here, right? We want to get all registered models for an experiment. So the artifact here that we have fetched, one of the things that I saw this morning when I was just getting ready for this is that we don't have a run on this one. We don't have a run ID. Because what we're going to do right now, if I may just kind of give you the syntax here, is that we need to go to artifact here, run experiment ID here, and then this one needs to be run artifact run experiment ID. Okay, because that's kind of what we need there. So for register models, we need to go into this collection DB set here. We want to fetch all of them that has a run artifact, where the run experiment ID equals the same as this one. And you can see here these are red because we don't have a run property on run artifact. So that's something we need to add here to make sure we get this flowing. And I think we have the run ID already set, of course, as a foreign key here. So that's all good. But we don't have a run here, like an actual virtual navigation property. So we'll need to go ahead and add that. Let's go back here. So right here we're gonna add a run. Okay, run, that's all good. And like that we'll get that, perfect. So now the syntax compiles. And regarding your question, Mitchell, I'm actually happy to do that if you want to. We can change that if you want to. I don't think I have anything against that at all, so. Do we have to take first, or we just take one, I guess? Actually, let's start with max. This is syntax easier to understand, and we can see if we want to improve it. Yeah, let's start just for the syntax reasons right now solely. It's just easier to read, and we'll get there later and look at the benchmark. I think benchmark.net would be great though. I don't know, Brett, I think you joined into Steve Gordon's talk as well on .NET DC last week, and he uses the benchmark.net a lot as well for his work, and we do it kind of for my client right now, but we should definitely look at that as well if we want to look at performance to kind of measure these things a bit more. So that should be cool to do. So if anyone is interested in performance and wants to look at benchmark.net, that's something we can definitely add an issue for as well to get an idea here. Alright, cool. So we have all registered models for an experiment that matches this artifact ID we're trying to find. We get the version, and we +1 if it exists, and then we add it, save changes. Alright, let's go ahead and pipe this up all the way here as well. Okay. Do you like benchmark.net, Brett? It's really addictive, right? Once you start using it and you're like, oh, I can use this for a lot of stuff and I can get better and better, right? I personally find it like I can get way into it, but it's a cool tool for sure. The important thing I think to remember is that you need to put it in a CI pipeline to get real benefit from it. Otherwise, there's a chance that yeah, otherwise a chance that just those models kind of rot away. Like at my current client, we do have it, but we don't have it in a CI pipeline. And I kind of just find those methods being rotten away because we don't take care of them and we don't actually monitor them and measure them. It's just our poor practice, I think. I'm sure you're doing it better, but putting in a CI pipeline is definitely worth it. Alright, so let's go ahead and add this to the catalog here. We probably want to have this, where do we have this one? Is it training catalog? So we're doing registered models, right? So it should be model catalog. Okay, here it is. Alright, so we need to pipe this down all the way, right? So let's go ahead and add a method here. Registers model. Awesome. Okay, great. Honestly, Brett, your work must love you. You're so innovative as of late here. You're doing, benchmark.net, you're joining into meetups, you're looking at ML.net, MLOps. You're taking a lot of awesome initiatives, I think. Run repository. Repository. Okay, let's go pipe this down here. So create register model. Okay. I guess so. Hopefully it won't fade, That's something that should always be there. Alright, let's build this. Hopefully we get the piping down here now. And then I do want to add like a get register model as well, because we need to use that for unit and integration tests later. So does anyone have any fun plans for the weekend? Apart from joining into this stream, of course. What are you up to? Cool. All right, get that one. Yeah, looking forward to your PR as well. That's gonna be fun. All right, let's add a method here. Let's get wow, that's nice intelligence. Okay. So, does this make sense? Thoughts for you guys, question. So I need a method to get register models as well. And I feel like getting it per experiment is the best way. Because getting it for a run, like once you register it, like the runs kind of fade away. It's good for auditability, but what you really care about is for experiment, because you will deploy a model per experiment. And you will only really have one model that is important for you per experiment at one given time, which is going to be the highest version, right? So I was thinking we can create two methods here for like getting all registered experiments models per experiment, as well as getting the latest register model, honestly. So we can have like two of them like this. So public registered model, get registered model. And I think probably we need a better name for this one than this. So get registered model, get latest, I think. And that would return the highest version number, more or less, here. I was thinking this one would serve as that. Like you can get all of them if you like, and you can filter out yourself. But we can also have one if you want to. I think that could be a bit more verbose, maybe. I don't know, what do you think? Because this one definitely give you like your all registered model for experiment, and you can kind of do it yourself. Okay, cool. If someone likes it later or you need it, we can definitely add that method. It's no issue at all. Exactly, yeah. Add minimum stuff now that we want to maintain, that we think we'll need, and then once people ask for it, we'll go ahead and add more stuff. Alright, so let's try to add these here, because these will be used for integration tests. So, get all registered models for an experiment. Alright. Get the most recently registered. Right? Alright, cool. So in this case, it should be pretty simple, I think. Let's see. So let's create a variable here. By the way, completely off topic, but has anyone tried C# 9 yet? And if you have, how do you like it? I'm seeing so many cool stuff on Twitter about it, and I like, you know, pros and cons for sure. But I'm getting kind of interested, honestly. There's some big changes. Where did my mouse go? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, seems like a pretty cool way. More dynamic. They're definitely catering more to the JavaScript community, I think, which is good and bad. But you know, we have a talk next month for .NET DC with Labrina Loving talking about it. So I'm really looking forward to it and hearing more about the changes they're making. Yeah. I've just seen the Scott Hanselman thing with that. I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm not sure if I like it yet, but to be seen, right? Alright, so register models. So here we want to do select many, right? And we'll go ahead and I like the new line because that's easy to read. So run artifact, run experiment ID equals experiment ID, right? That should be thank you, Mitchell. Appreciate the subscription. That's awesome. Thank you. Select. Okay. So in this case here, right? So we want run artifact, want run. Actually, we want just a register model here, right? Registered model. I'll call it what it is, so it's more explicit. Okay, why is this not compiling? Because I can't spell. Alright, so that should get us those models, right? So now comes the question of what do we want here? So honestly, we don't even need to have a variable here, we can just do return. But now we need to think about what do we care about here, and can we include things? Actually, we do need this variable because it won't work all the time. So what do you think? Let's do this. Return registered models, right? What do you think someone would care about if they get registered models? Let's think about a use case where they would actually use this method. Probably in the UI, right? If we list models for a specific experiment. History, those things. So my question is mostly, what kind of navigation properties do we care about? I do think we care about run and experiments, so I do think we want to add that here. Because I do think that they want to show, okay, for this registered model, we have experiment name, this and this was the run, and so forth. So I think we need to create this whole change of thing here instead. So in that case, I think we need like probably need to loop over these. And the reason why I do this is because we can't use include, because we are supporting a non-SQL database, which is Cosmos DB right now, right? And it only works if you have embedded entities and owned entities. And in this case, we don't have owned entities for models, so it's not going to work by default, which is a bit tedious, but it's the best we can do to make it easy for us. So we want to run artifacts, and that should be easy. First default. Let's see, why is it difficult for me to understand this right now? Because I think, okay, so that'd be good, run artifact T. So that's a simple one, right? So we're getting the run artifact because of that, and then we are getting, we have to figure out what we want for the run, right? So we want to have the run, and the run is going to be runs. And this is going to be run ID equals register model. Actually, I think it probably makes sense to do it separate here for now, just to readability. Okay, and this is going to be easier like this. So run artifacts will kind of go up here in this piping here, and then we'll go ahead and do get experiment. Come on. No intelligence, that's okay. And experiment is going to be just the same, but first or default here. Actually, let's do first, because all these should be existing. If it doesn't, we should have exceptions, and that should be okay. Okay, and run. All right. Yeah. I'm not very happy with this current structure neither, Mitch, but I think supporting Cosmos DB is kind of what we need to do. But the alternative is creating a SQL query for this. I don't think it'll be super slow though, honestly. I think it's mostly verbose in the code, but I don't think it's slow as execution-wise. But that's something we should definitely try as well. So, why is it? Oh, Jesus. Spelling again. Okay. So we'll set that, and we'll go ahead and do this. I see. Well, that is true. Yeah, this method may be very slow for sure, in that case. I think we have to cross that bridge when we get there though, don't you think? Or do you think that's something to worry about right now? It's definitely useful. definitely possible, I say. Interesting. We don't have experiment and run. Okay, that's be added. Okay, so we should add run experiment here. Do you have a suggestion, Mitch, on how we can improve it? Okay. I think one of the issues with the pagination in this case is that we're going to dispose of our DB context. So if we start adding pagination, we may have those issues. But that's the only concern, right? Because we don't register this DB context for the whole HTTP request in this case, or whatever it is, or the thread. So if we're going to have lazy loading on pagination, it's going to end up with context already disposed exception, I think. In that case, I'm sure there's a way around it, and just that I think that's going to be one of the issues we're going to face at least. Not to say that it's not to say that we shouldn't do it, I guess. But I'm also happy just to keep it simple for now and see where it goes. Alright. Let's keep it simple for now, but I would love, if you have a pagination idea, Mitchell, I would love a PR on it after we get this PR going, honestly. That'd be, I mean, a good try for sure. Definitely a good idea. Alright, there's some models, loop over them, get these run artifacts, get runs, experiments. Okay, good. I think that's kind of what you want for this model here, so it's good. So now we need to do the same thing here. That's going to be much faster. Yeah, I appreciate that. And if you, I mean, you can also open an issue and we can look at it together. That's also good. It's good to keep track of those things for sure. Say like, hey, this is something that we want to improve, and see where that takes us for sure. Okay, so when it comes to this should be quick to reduce some of this logic here, and we can probably break this out. So register models, we want to get, okay. So these are going to be all registered models for a run, and we want to, in this case I think though it makes sense to order by descending, definitely, because the syntax is going to be very sweet here. So I like this, Mitchell, right here. And take one. Okay. Actually, we don't even do that. We just need to do first or default here, right? And see where it gets us. One moment. What are we getting here? Oh yeah, that's right, because they're all, you're right, they're all, that's why it doesn't compile. Yep. Thank you, Mitchell. Alright. Okay, so that's gonna be our first registered model. So now comes the fun part here. I think this one can be broken out to, like we have like populate run here that we use in general when we want to get a run, to get stuff like that, so we can easier. So let's create a populate model here so we can keep it simple. In case we need to use it otherwise. Populate registered model, right? We'll fetch this in here, make it a little bit easy for us. And what we need here, we need a registered model. Okay. And we need the database for our current transaction. And private. And one thing I actually want to change here to make it a bit easier to read is using some C# 8 features here. So let's see if we can do that. But first, let's go ahead and do this. And we should be able to do can we do this actually? It's kind of fun. Let's see, DB, right? Okay. It's a little bit less verbose here at least, right? Okay. And this case here, we can do populate register modeled, and that would be that. Register. Yeah, that's what I'm getting conscious about my spelling now. Alright, so all good. So one thing we can do now here, I think, is we can clean up this stuff here. I don't think we need these. We can just use we should be able to use C#8 features here. Oh, okay. So let's upgrade to C#8 then. That's kind of what I wanted anyway. Is that as easy as doing that? Should be a project type, I think, right? Let's see, why can't we upgrade to C#8? C#8 project, because I want to use a nicer syntax. There we go. So we should be able to change all of our stuff here. Let's see. This is my music collection. So we can add it to the build props here to get this on all of them, I think. Source. Should we do it here, I think. And I assume that should be in a own item group. Here. Let's see if that... If I say this, can it work? Let's build it and see if we can get that to take effect. It did. I really like the build props things. That allows you to have this kind of shared thing among projects if you have something similar, like a language version, so you don't have to populate everywhere for it. Cool. So that's a lot nicer. And we can do the indentation here a bit, and we can do the same thing everywhere. So what this does here is, yeah, it's super useful. It just takes away those brackets for no reason. So what it says here is that, okay, we have using of DB, and we understand it's going to be disposed, but it'll be disposed once we're done with it, more or less, after this method. So I think it's super clean, I think. And we'll change that for everyone else, everywhere else as well. We can do that a bit later, honestly. But we'll do it for our new methods at least here. Come on, jump in. I always forget that it exists as an option. Oh, that's why. And we'll do this one as well. Anything that makes it a bit less nested is good. Okay. Alright. So that's good, let's check that in, and then let's add some integration tests for this one to make sure it works. So do this separately here. Hopefully you find it useful. We can definitely update it to 6 to 9 as well if you want later, if you want to use something fun from C#9. But I think I'll wait until Arbina's talk next month to understand better what it entails. Support for getting models. Okay. Cool. Alright, so integration test. Does that sound good, right? So let's make sure we get this working and functioning as well. SQL Server, let's do those. So we have this new framework, right? We just need to add them in one place, really. and then we run it for all environments, which is great. In our case, it's going to be the model catalog test, right? I think so, at least. And we have none here. It's because of SQLite, sorry. Here we go. Okay. So do we have enough in SQL Server here for my model catalog test? I think so. Okay. Alright. Sounds good. So let's go ahead and add this. So let's see, what do we want here? Test method. We want definitely to be able to register models, right? So we want to do public void register model. Should register model. That's fine. So that's one method, right? What else do we want to test here? We want to do test method public void register model. Given a model is already registered, should register model with higher version. Okay. Any other methods we want to test here? Those are two things we want to do. Trying to think here. We probably want some sanity checks as well. So we should probably add some support for that as well. So test method here. We'll do public void register model. Given run artifact does not exist. Throws invalid argument, I guess. Well, throws exception. We'll figure out which one later. And we'll make sure to add a check for that so it's useful and get a useful message here. Okay, so 3 methods. I think that's a good start for us, and we'll go ahead and implement these. I like the AAA pattern just because it's easy to read once you get back here after a few years. Okay, so what do we need to set up here? Well, we need to run an experiment for sure, and we probably also need to run artifact here. Cool, yeah. It's just easy to read, right? To get an idea of what's happening. Even though it's a lot of comments. Okay. Okay. So, we can see here that we have the experiment ID, right? So we have to create an experiment, we have to create a run, and we also have to create a run artifact here. And run artifact by uploading it to, well, uploading model in general. That's what we need to do. So now we need to figure out the run artifact we got for this. And in our case, it's going to be the first one because we don't have anything, so we can use this assert here actually to get the first one. And that should be sufficient because we need to have the run artifact ID. That we will have here. Alright, so this arrange here gives us a simple way of just setting up the piping here, right? So getting that set up, and now we have a run artifact. So now we want to do the actual method here, which is to register a model. And that's going to be in our model catalog, I think. Register model. And we'll do run artifact ID here. And we will register this from us. And this is not going to be an async method because it's just normal. Okay, so what we want to do here? Okay, so now we're going to register it. So we want to check, we want to get the register models here and make sure we have actually registered it with information that we care about. So registered model. And we have to pipe that up as well. So we want to make sure we expose that in our model repository so you can get those, right? We haven't done that yet. So that's something we have to do, and that'll be a quick thing to fix. So we have the run repository here, right? But these two methods here are not accessible yet. So we need to add those to our interface and to our run repository, to our model repository. So add this one to the interface here, and we'll say, and honestly I think we did a mistake here. Why do we have, yeah, this should not be comments here. My bad. This is just inherit from the interface, a lot less work here. And a little cleaner. Nice. Awesome. We don't want unnecessary comments because they rot away. What do you also experience for comments, by the way? Do you like comments in your work? Do you you don't use it? I personally find that they tend to rot away real quickly and get obsolete. So I try to not use them and use use explanatory code that says what's happening. But I do like them as summary comments for methods and interfaces, because that's what the end user will use and see, and it's helpful, I think. Huh? Yeah. So Mitchell, what are you firefighting about? Is it mostly getting your things in production to stay alive and solving those kind of bugs, or gets the latest registered model for a given experiment? Yeah, sorry to hear that. My last place was the same. We had like all the new things. Well, so what do you think, Mitchell? What do you think the issue is really with that? Do you think it's like, what do you think is the cause for the firefighting? Usually it has more of a, not a technical cause, or it's more of a cultural cause, I think, in my point of view at least. Not giving enough time or not slack, I guess, to innovate and improve things. It's usually the reason. But I would love to hear your thoughts there. Okay, let's add this to the model catalog. Run repo. Okay. Wow. That's a lot of changes, yeah. Wow, if you're going from .NET on Windows to Linux VMs and immediately Kubernetes. Wow. Okay, yeah, I can see that you have a lot of firefighting to do. That's a big change, but that's good on you though. I mean, that's amazing that you were able to do that. We're actually on my current client right now. We're doing the core migration, and we are kind of at the point now. We're getting close to migrating our like really large legacy app, and we're thinking about, you know, should we put this .NET Core app now out on IS and just host an IS, and then take the step to go into containers and Linux containers, Kestrel, and, you know, heads on all the things that, you know, I'm sure you're having to fight with as well. Okay. Yeah, it's a shame, but it's very common. I mean, I fight every day for getting time or slack to improve things and making sure that we keep things, you know, up to date and those things. It's tough, and I understand the business as well. Though they just, you know, they want what's best for their money, and it's, I guess, our jobs as developers to try to convince them as well that they also need to understand the technical stuff. Yeah, I think for us we're going to go IS first, because the leap to Kubernetes, or sorry, the leap to Linux containers is still pretty big for us, because we have a lot of dependencies on like shared drives, and we have our you know, all of our VMs right now that we run our app on are on the domain, so we need to change our authentication completely as well from Windows authentication, because we use internal auth. It's an internal app, so it's a lot of those things that is going to have to change. That is not always compatible with a Linux container. So for us, it's going to be a very big leap going from a hosted VM to a container, which is going to be fantastic once we're there. We just need to be a little bit cautious when we do that change. What did you do for? So did you use Windows Auth, if I may ask, or did you use something else already for your app? And if you did, like, what did you do for switching from a VM to a container? Repository. This one. Okay, cool. Return. Missing that one. Where is that? Get registered model. Come on. Okay, yeah. We're getting towards that as well, I think, eventually. It's definitely a fun journey, right? But it's good. Keeps us all employed, at least, with all the changes happening all the time, and some cool things for sure. Alright, so we've added these things to the model catalog, and we're good with that. So that's awesome. So now we can go back to our tests and make sure we add the proper thing here. So we should be able to get in the model catalog, we should be able to get the latest registered model. That should be enough. Okay. Maybe we'll look at that a bit later. Sounds cool. So if we look at the registered model now, we want to ensure a couple of things here. First of all, the version should be 1, right? Because that's the first, we haven't nothing registered before. So that should be number 1. Registered date. And this is going to be a time thing. So let's see, we can, the time is of course not going to be the same, and that's okay, but we at least want to make sure it's today. So let's do get the date. Can we get the date? Should be daytime date. Right. And then let's see, what else do we have? Registered by, that should be by me. Interesting. Yeah, we can do it. I think actually what we should do, yeah, I think that's a good point, Mitchell. So one thing we actually have is a clock interface that we use somewhere else to be able to set these things here. Wonder if we should do that instead. So we have I did a similar thing for unit tests before, where we have an iClock, and this is an interface we can mock away, so we can get that working properly. Let's see, where did I put that? So we can just pass that into the repository instead. So here we go. So I did one of these instead, so we can get the UTC time now all the time. So we should use that for the registered time, because that will give us the UTC now all the time. So let's go ahead and do that real quick here. It's a quick change. So in the constructor here, we also want to take an iClock. And we then use that here. Here's a date. Instead of this, we'll use clock. And you should have one property. There we go. Okay, so then we can mock that away later. That'd be useful. Let's make sure we get the constructor working here. So what do we have here? We have one place. Yeah, it just makes it a bit easier for those kind of things. And we'll just, in this case here, we don't test this part, but we have to figure out a better DI framework for this later. But now we'll just do new clock here. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and set this up. I think, well, the only issue with this is that we can't actually access it. Okay, it's a good idea, and it would be great for unit tests, so I think, because the issue right now is that we're not mocking anything for integration tests, which is kind of what I want. I want it to be as real as possible, but we'll have to add some unit tests instead for the repository. So it's going to be a good change to add the iClock for unit tests. But for now, we'll just have to do with a date here in the integration tests, and the unit test portion will have to be more thorough. So registered by should be this string right here. Okay. Anything else we have to check here? Run artifact ID, I think that's okay. I guess we can check that real quick here, just to make sure that we have that set. So that should be run artifact dot run artifact ID. Okay. Alright, so that's good. So now let's go ahead and implement other methods here, and then let's run them all together, I think. Actually, let's comment it out. Let's see if we can get this first one to run first. So I think we may have some other issues. Let's see, I think okay, so this is a database container I'm running right now. So we can run the unit test against the container. Sorry, the integration test here. So let's run this one and see if we at all have functioning functionality. Because it's possible that we have something in our code here that's going to break, and we may as well find out before we add more integration tests that will break as well. So we're building this one, and I think what it's going to do now is run against all 3 environments. I'm not sure. We'll see. I think it's running all tests right now. So these ones are okay because we don't have the integration test to container running here, I think. Yeah, that's okay. Let's see what we have here. Okay. I'm not going to worry about this one right now because I think this has to do with the fact that we haven't reset the SQLite database yet. But I do want to care about SQL Server test here. Okay, SQL Server. Do we have... Okay. Okay, so it hasn't been run yet, so let's run this one right here. That's kind of what I care about right now. If that one passes, then I'm good to continue testing the other ones and adding other tests here. I don't have all my containers running locally right now, so that's why you see a couple of red ones here as well. For the Azure Cosmos emulator and for other fun stuff here. I can't wait for the Azure team, by the way, to come out with a container image for Cosmos DB as well, so we can run that properly. Alright, so that didn't work, and that's okay. Let's figure out what's going on here. So something with our link query is not working. Okay, so let's go ahead and debug this one and see what exactly is breaking here. So something in our link query doesn't seem to be functioning, which is why we have these tests, to understand that. Well, saves a lot of time going forward at least. Yeah, I think so too. I think there's something in our integrity that's not set up properly. I wonder if I need to set that in my configuration. That's probably what's going on here. Okay. It's possible that... Okay, so we have an artifact, right? So that should be the one we saved. Okay, so that's good. And then... That's good. So now we have registered models here. Do we have anything? We shouldn't have... Oh, that's it right there. You're right. It's right here, right? This one has not been fetched yet, so that is exactly right, Mitchell. Because it doesn't going to include that, so that's going to be an issue in itself. Okay. So do we need to get the run instead? Maybe that's easier here. Do we need... We want to use that here. Can we get instead something like this? Runs. Okay. Can we do something like this? We don't have that, okay. Okay. Is this useful? Okay, so instead we're getting the run here. So any first run which has an artifact ID with that there, that would I think not give us a null ref here at least, right? I'm a little bit worried about performance of this one. I don't think the performance is going to be great right here. Mitchell or Brett, do you have any other suggestions here that we can explore? I mean, this is probably going to work, but I don't like using the any like this. There's definitely a chance of a performance hit here. Ooh, that's gone there. Let's try it at least and see if it works. But we may want to do that something else there. Unit tests are amazing. Integration tests are amazing. A lot less maintenance going forward. Oh, there we go. That worked just like a charm. Honestly, really well. Okay, I think let's leave it for now. We have to definitely go back here and look at it. I think benchmarks.net is going to be good eventually here to figure out what's going on here in terms of performance. Look at that. Now when we use C#8, we even get IntelliSense as well, saying it can be simplified. So, yep, let's do that. Since you're giving me the option, I will go ahead and do it everywhere. Yeah. It's like Steve said on his talk last week, it's like, you know, we have to definitely think about performance, but that should be something we should optimize for once we have something working, and especially once we have unit tests and integration tests that can prove how things are going. Alright, great, so let's add other tests here. So now we have that. So now we want additional tests here. Where did it go? Okay. So let's look at this one. I'm going to just copy paste at least a setup here, because we will need to do that. So in this case here we want to register one first, and then we want to register a new one for the same experiment. So what I mean with that is that we want to register one here, and then we want a completely new experiment here. So same experiment but a new run. So you see here that we have one section here where an experiment is created. We do a run, we run it, we get a model of some sort, we upload it, and then we fetch the run artifacts and we register a model for that run artifacts. So now what we want to do is we want to copy this, and we want to do run ID 2. So we want to do a new run for the same run, for the same experiment, and then we want to go ahead and upload a new artifact for that run, and then we want to fetch that run artifact, and we want to register a new model for that one. So right here we created a run, we upload everything, and we should have a model here with version 1, because that's what we tested here. So when we do this again here, we're running a new run, a new artifact, we should now have version 2 here. Okay, and we can do this one as part of our act here. Okay, so what we want to do right now is that our latest model here, the only thing we need to check here is that it actually has version 2. Version should be 2. Right? Makes sense? It's kind of what we're checking here. So we're making sure that the versioning works as expected here. Yep, cool. Other things I want to check here is that I want another method here as well to check that our dependencies are properly fetched. So I want to have the same thing here, like when we register model, should register model. In this case here, we want to do get registered models should return with run and experiment loaded. To make sure that we actually check this, so in case someone changes this later, we know that it's happened, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that if we register a model, and if I go ahead and get register models, the first one here, let's just get the first one here, because that doesn't matter. What I want to assert here is that the run artifact should not be null, right? It should be set, and so forth here. So run artifact, run, we just want to make sure this is set properly, and then finally experiment. And that will at least validate that method as well, to make sure that things are loaded properly. Okay. Alright, so then moving on to the last one here, we want to check that if we don't have anything, then we should give a good message for that. So what I'm saying here is that if I just call this one, okay, we can remove the range here because we don't have any range at all. If I call this with just a new GUID here, and we haven't registered anything before, right? Then we should have an exception here. And this doesn't need to be a sync. And I can't remember the syntax for checking exceptions in the MS test framework. Does anyone on the stream today know the syntax out of hand? I think I know it for any units, but not for MS test framework. I'll check otherwise. Expected exception, right? Yeah, no worries. I'm an NUnit guy as well, but I decided by some reason to use MS test framework for this library, because that's the default one. Okay, well, is this still a thing? Let's see. I try always to learn something new, and I don't want to, especially for like my hobby projects, I want to force myself to do something that's different, which is always not always a good thing. Alright, so let's see, what do we expect here, right? So if we drill into this one here, what we're trying to say here is that if the run here comes back null, so if run artifact actually doesn't make any sense here because we don't have any runs for it, that would be a thing to check for. We can also add a check here, so either we check here that okay, run is null, abort, because something is off here, right? We have a wrong run artifact ID, or we can check before and get the run artifact ID for that one and see if that exists or not. It's probably more explicit to check run artifact ID. It will be computationally more expensive, but I think, let's see, run artifacts. It may make more sense though, just to make it explicit as a check. We'll do any here. Is this clean? Let's see. Let's do an invalid exception here. Invalid operation exception. And we'll say the run artifacts with yes. Thank you for correcting that. Thank you. Okay, run artifact with, and let's do a dollar sign here. Does not exist. Equal to register. Okay. And at least like that we will get a better exception in case we do something similar as last time and those things here. So we want an invalid operation exception here. Can we also specify the specific text here or not? Probably not. That's okay. Alright, let's run these and see if they pass. You can? Okay. I'm wondering if it's... let's see what this one has to offer us. Maybe it's a different parameter. Yep. Okay. It looks like you're right, Michelle. Let's go ahead and do that. But in our case here, we would need to... Yeah. We're gonna have the... Okay. You are thinking way ahead of me. Thank you. You're solving my problems before I solve them. I like it. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Where do you go? Can I wonder if I can do this though. It is the whole point, right? In some ways it sure is, because that gives us a lot of help here. Can I do this? That's the question. I'm not sure if I can. Because it won't allow me to do a runtime thing. Yep, and that's okay. Let's see. How does an empty GUID look like? We can just copy it in there. 1 second here. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me run this one and copy the empty GUID out here. Debug this one. I can Google it too, but I think this is faster. Alright, so empty GUID. Yeah, so I'm just trying to get this one here. There we go, stop this one. And I think we should update the number as well. Run artifact with ID. That's better. Okay, so update that text as well. Where do you go? Got way too many classes in this place. Weird. Alright, so let's see if this test passed now. And then if this pass, we're gonna go and make sure our Cosmos DB emulator is working, and we'll run it for our Cosmos DB implementation too. And that should be a good check to ensure we have no issues with our NoSQL implementation as well. And this fails as crazy. Okay, good. I guess that we have these tests. So we're getting a disposed error issue here, and it's probably because I am using an enumerable here and I should not use an enumerable here. So here's the issue, right, with not having a DB context that is actually for the whole thread or the HTTP context, because it gets exposed here after its method, so the enumerable can't be used there. Which is an annoying issue that we should try to solve at some point, but for now we're just gonna force execution for it to a list here. And that will solve it, I think. Yeah. Like from the beginning I was and I was thinking like maybe from this kind of command line thing, like a tool, NuGet like this, that dependency injection is not going to work, but I'm wondering more and more that maybe it actually will work at some point. So I should look at using like AutoFac or something else to set up our dependencies like this. And we have something here. A second operation started before previous operation completed. This is usually caused by different threads using the same instance of DB context. So do we have an async method that is not async here, I think? Okay, this is not the issue. I'm wondering if you have any thread issues here. We're waiting. Yes, I think that's kind of the issue, but this is not an async method, so at least I didn't. Oh, I made it async. Why is it async? Do we have an async? Yes, we have an async. Yep, you are right, Brett. This one here should be async. Ah, tests are so tedious, right? But I love tests because they catch these things. Model catalog is good. We should make it async. And this even has a task on it. Okay, let's try this again. See if we can get this PR completed. That'd be awesome. So only if you don't have build errors. Okay, let's fix this. Okay. So this one's ending up to be a sync one now. Task. Alright. Sync task. Yeah. Do you know what I do with tests that are duplicates, that doesn't add any value, Mitch? I delete them. I am notorious. So we have probably 60,000 tests on my client right now, of various levels. So we have unit tests, integration tests, functional UI tests, functional API tests, and so forth. So we are test fanatics in general, and I'm a test fanatic. But anytime I see an ignore test or something that doesn't add any value, it's gone. Because if it doesn't add any value and just causes you to like have to fix all the time, it just adds maintenance costs for no reason whatsoever. So that's just has to be gone, I think. But it's just important, I think, to like chop down some trees sometimes in the forest of tests to make sure that you have tests that actually adds value and just doesn't only say I have tests, because if it doesn't help you, they're pointless. But yeah, it's definitely two different schools there, I guess, as well. Okay, we have an issue here. Okay, good. So we have a null rough exception here. This is a great test. Let's see. Let's run this test and make sure we debug it, understand what's going on here. But yeah, I think tests in general are good, but it goes back again to having time for it, like having slack enough in development sprints to, be allowed to create tests and see the value in them. They will always save you down the line for sure. Okay, let's get another ref here. Interesting. So just because I'm calling this method here and not any using, it says it's disposed, which I'm a little bit surprised about, honestly. I think it's a secret. Yeah, I think so too, because I was thinking that this is going to be kept alive through the whole method, but it doesn't seem like that's the thing here. It seems like it's like, okay, I've done my thing, and now you're somewhere else. So it's almost like I have to do my own using here instead, which I think is fine. Yeah, let's do that and see. I'm pretty sure it's going to work when we do that. But let's go ahead and see. It's a little bit unfortunate that that's the case. I'll fix the syntax later, but let's run this test and see. pretty sure that's going to pass now. Which will be interesting, for sure. No. Okay, so now it's saying a second operation started again. So probably missed something here. On our tests, I think. Do we have... Okay, here's the model, it's all good. What is starting that? What is starting that additional thing here? Create experiments. This is not a thing for sure. This is, we're waiting that one. Get registered models. Oh. Wait, which method is this? Oh, I see. We're probably not, can we wait this one? I think we were looking at the wrong method here. Okay, I'm gonna take this back. I think, I still think this is gonna work. I think it's actually just, it's just me. We were looking at the wrong method here. Let me clean this up real quick here. So the method we were calling is not get latest. It's actually the other one. But I think what's not working is the, yeah, exactly. That one's on the way that. So that one is just going through it and it's exposing it. But I only think it's going to. I think what I'm going to do here is make it simpler instead of doing this. So can't we just do this? Well, we can't because that's going to be a different one. We can do it to list, but then I will. Yeah, that's fine actually because we're going to do it anyway. To list for each, and just do a normal one like this. I think that should be a bit better. So I think that's the issue. Okay, let's try this again now. Hopefully that will work, because I would hate it if the C# 8's syntax is actually changing functionality as well. And behavior. Don't want that. Ta-da! Look at that. Alright, cool. We solved that issue and understood what's going on. So let's run the Cosmos DB test now. So I think I have Cosmos DB emulator on here. Got Docker on, got OBS. And okay, I don't have Cosmos on. Let's go ahead and see if I can get that. So we have this Cosmos DB emulator if you want to run those tests. And it is, let's see here. Where did he go? So it's this thing here that we can run, you can install it, and it allows you to run Cosmos DB locally, more or less with tests, like we're doing right now, and see how to behave. So we see here we have like a local host thing here, and we got an Explorer, and we have our like database right here with these things. So that's cool. So we can actually run these tests and understand how it's created and how it's storing our data. The only issue with this is that it's not in a container. It's actually installed on Windows, so it's Windows based. And it won't work running in GitHub in our CI pipeline because we need something that has as a Linux container. But I talked to the PM in Cosmos in Azure, and they're going to they're adding support for this already. So we'll probably see support for this going forward in just not too long. But that's running, so that's good. But that gives me one thought I'm going to look at. So one thing we should do here is probably map our register model here to the right container. So model builder. So we have this kind of configuration class here, which allows us to map our entities to a specific container. or have them as own properties. So in our case here, what we do is register model. We want that his own container because no one is owning this one, and we're going to call it the same thing as the class here. All right. You can see here that in some cases we do want to own these things here. Yeah, sounds good. You see here that we have this data class that has data schema, and then this data schema has tons of columns. So each of those schemas and columns doesn't make any sense by themselves, just as a part of data. So we instead own them, so they are embedded as part of JSON in this one here. But for this makes sense to have its own. But it reminds me that I need to check our configuration for our local stuff here. And where would that be? Database. Where would that be? Here it is, entity configuration. So if you look at this right now, we have no configuration here for our registered models. So what happens here, if you look at our database here, so it should be a database here, refresh. Our database here is going to have created a table by itself. And you'll see here that we have singular on all these things, but since we didn't define the table it's going to go to, it's going to go to the plural of the DB set that we have in the MLOps DB set, which is plural. And I don't like that, so I want a singular, so we're going to go ahead and add one here as well for that, to make sure it's a singular table name. Okay. Alright, so with that, let's go ahead and run those Azure tests and make sure they work. So we'll see here, we have those model catalog tests here, right? So let's run those and see if they pass. So these are the same tests we just wrote. We haven't wrote different ones for Azure or anything else. We have just, we're just running them against Azure now with just hitting the Cosmos DB database instead of the SQL Server database. So let's see if these pass. They don't pass. Well, some of them pass. So that's interesting. So what behavior do we have here that is different? I see. Okay, so this is the reason why we have this test. So I forgot that any is not supported in Cosmos DB yet. You know, same thing with include. We can't include things, and so is any. So we can't use any here. We need something else instead. So we have to be much more rudimentary. But this is why we had these tests, so we understand what will break in Azure versus SQL Server or SQLite. Cool. That's actually a really good thing that it broke, so we can understand how we can change that. Exactly, yeah, or something like that. So we can't have any, and we'll see here that we have quite a few any's here. Exactly, yeah. I wonder if first default will work. That's a good start, I think. I feel like that should have the same issue, honestly. Well, actually it won't, you're right, because it will actually return one here. So we just have to be a bit different here, so it's going to be run artifact. Yep, exactly. Not as pretty, but just fine. Oh, you want to do this? I actually, let's see. Do I like that? I wonder if this is easy to read. Yeah, I think I want it like this, just because it's easy for me to read. Because I will usually miss these things at the end here. All right, and then we have any here, so. This one though is a bit different. So in this case here, we're trying to find any run artifact that matches this run artifact ID to get the run. So we have to do a little bit different here, but that's okay. Is this clean or not? not very clean. It's not good at all. First run that has any run artifact that matches ID doesn't feel very clean to me, but that's pretty what to do, I think. Is there any way to make this better and more explanatory? So we want to run again because we want the experiment ID, and before when we get the artifact that was null. So what we can do instead here, and this is a good point, Mitchell, what we can do instead is we can do run artifact dot run equals db dot run first or default run artifact run ID. So we can do this instead if you want to, which I think is actually cleaner. And actually, yeah, I don't know why they didn't do this in the beginning. That's a lot easier. I'm not sure why we did that from the beginning. Okay, cool. Thank you for giving that thought, Mitchell. That makes no sense. And then this also makes much more sense now. I can do that. Okay, get rid of that one. Made it easier. The beauty of streaming. Get a lot of good options here. All right, so in this case here, we can just do count here, honestly. That should be working, I think, right? Okay. All right, I think that's enough. I think that's all any we have. Save changes. Okay. That actually probably simplifies some things as well. So it's a good thing we did that. Let's try this again and see. So my only concern here, not a concern actually, is that we don't run it in the CI pipeline. So it's easy that we miss these things that kind of break changes. It's important that we run these locally when we do these functionality changes to make sure they actually work. And they still don't work. Okay, so something else. Yeah, probably we can do that if you want to. So we have a join issue here. Okay, so join can't be used neither. So what's the issue here? So I think it has to do with this one right here. That doesn't work. So another issue, I can actually, let's get up here. Let's add a comment. I like that actually, Mitchell. We should add a comment here. But I'm gonna add a comment to the documentation. Limitations. Because there's a couple of them here. And we can read them through real quick here, but let me add that to, does it make sense to add to the run repository? I think it makes sense to add it to the DB contents actually. Because that's kind of where we have these things here. So I'm gonna add it here instead. As one provider which currently have EF core limitations. I'm sure there is a good way for doing that. It's something we could think about. We can definitely like search, I guess, the whole database for any of those things. It's not too many limitations, but it's a couple of them. So like the things here we are, can't do or include, which is an issue. We can only include, we can use include in some cases when it's like an embedded and own property, which we have a couple. But in general, we have to avoid that. We can't do join calls, which we're doing right there. And I think these stuff we don't really care about. But a join and include and any, I think, are some issues we have. But this is for we don't have any issue. So I don't see any issues here with .any, which is surprising. Because I would have expected that to be something that they would have said here. yeah, this is the backlog. So hopefully, yes, we're on the latest version. We upgrade all the time actually. So we have Dependabot installed in our repo, so we get a new version all the time. I'm actually curious here. This is the repo for Entity Framework for that, for Cosmos, and well, I guess hopefully at some point we'll get these things working. You can see that we definitely have these things added here. So at some point we can definitely improve this, which is going to be great. Alright, but let's go back to the issue at hand here. Try to get this resolved so we can get this PR up. So the issue right here is the join here. So we're doing a join right here. And that's not going to play well with Cosmos, I think. So we need to think of that, and we're gonna have the same issue here, I think. So we have to solve that in some easy way. So you want register models here, right? And we want all register models that has the same experiment ID. And I think yes, exactly, Mitch. That's what kind of my thought was. I didn't want to say it out loud, but thank you for saying it, because I'm going to do it now. I think we're going to add, what we're going to do is just make this a lot less normalized. I think what I want to do here is add experiment ID as well and run ID. So instead of having this whole chain here, what we can do is we'll say, I think we definitely need experiment ID. We may even need experiment ID. Run ID as well. Does that make sense to have both, you think? So I'm wondering here if we also should, I think, I wonder if we should also have navigation properties on this one here to both of them. I think at least for an experiment it makes sense. So we'll enforce that constraint as well, completely. And like that, we can have to traverse the whole way down. Structure. The run, I'm not so sure if the run is... I think so. The run, I'm not sure if we need the run reference or not. Trying to think if that's something we want in the UI. We may as well right now. I think when we fetch these things, it's going to be mostly for UI display. So it's okay. Alright, that makes sense. Get this going again. Let's simplify this. Perfect. Okay. So in this case here, this is going to be quite a bit of rewrite, but we have some unit tests, or sorry, we have some integration tests now, so that's good. So instead of this register model here, we do need to fetch the experiment ID here. So I think, does it make sense to pass in the experiment ID here, I think, in this instead? I almost think that's what we want to do here, is pass in the experiment ID to kind of avoid fetching that at least. Okay. So in that case, we want to do that. We want to do that version, experiment ID here. That's good. And then we need to fetch a run here. So run is all good. You know, we fetch it right here, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and set run ID here to run ID. Okay. So we're good with that. So now we set our navigation properties that we changed. But now we don't want to care about all this crap here. So instead, what we want to do here is just do registered models, dv registered models, where experiment ID equals experiment ID. Make it flat and nice. Awesome, that's actually much better. Like that. So that's going to solve that issue of those, and we'll get that working. Nice, I like that. In the same case here, we can now simplify these methods quite a bit. So experiment ID is passed in here, right? So the same way we did that here, we can then just copy this one here, and we don't need to worry about any of this. We'll just do that, and we'll just do that. Registered models. Which one is... Well, that one's better. Yep, exactly. Which one did I misspell? Okay. Register. Okay. And exactly, yeah. Okay, so that is fine. So this one I broke. Let me see what I changed here. All the way down. How do we search it before, right? Yep, order by sending. Okay, that's what we did. Okay, that's all good. Alright, perfect. So, that's gonna fetch that, but now we don't need to do as much work here, right? Or do we do that? So we'll still do that. But right now we can just get this straight here instead. So instead of doing run artifact here, I would honestly just want to do this instead here. So we'd be registered model. Like that. And I don't know if we actually need to have the run artifact dependency anymore on the registered model, but we can keep that at least if you want it as well. Probably makes sense here. So in our case here, this will be registered model, run artifact in case we care about that. And here it'll be easier. We'll do runs, that'll be easy. We have that now, right? So we got run ID, we got the experiment ID, and that's all we need to do. And we don't have that by some reason. Run ID is there. Why doesn't it want to take that? Is it not public? Oh, sorry. Is it? I don't think so. Oh, it's spelled wrong there, I see. Yep, you are right. Thank you for that. Alright, so that's easier. Okay, so we got that all set up. Perfect. Let's run these tests again. Do you think it looks good? Anything you want to change? I think this looks good so far. Happy with that. Let's run these tests again and see. Actually, one thing I want to change here before we do that is I want to make sure we clean up these things, so we didn't do that. Just so our integration test changes here, we have this initialize somewhere. Where did I go? We want to make sure we clean up things here. So right here, for example, we should clean it up. This should also be simplified sometime. So if anyone wants to feel like doing that, that can be good. Make sure we clean up our database after each run here, so we don't have things lingering that could affect things. Okay, and I think we can try to run these ones first, and then I need to drop the database and try it for SQL Server again to make sure that goes and works. And hopefully we are doing well in that. We'll see. It will be fun. It will be fun if this works. Oh yeah, of course we need to go ahead and change our interface real quick here as well, because we changed the signature here on this one. Okay. And then get this changed here. All right. Nice. So let's see now if this works. Hopefully this is going to build as well. Please work. This is honestly taking a lot more time than I thought it would to get this all wired up. I thought it would be a quick thing. Test, of course. We need to change that. Yeah, I thought it'd be like, what else should I do during stream today? It's going to take me 10 minutes to fix. And now we're here almost 1.5 hours later. We're like, still haven't fixed this. But we're learning a lot. We add in documentation, which I like, Mitchell. That was a good suggestion to add to that. And it's just fun to be back, honestly, doing some streaming again, working on this. My afternoon today is going to be spent on prepping presentations for Friday next week. My wife is playing Dungeons and Dragons with her friends, which should be fun, I think. But that's that's the time when I get to work on my own stuff, which is going to be presentations this weekend. But I'm taking some vacation in August, so it should be fun. Look at that, it works. All right. Let me go ahead and drop this database and run our SQL server as well, because now we changed the model, right? So we'll make sure our tests still work here. I think so. Then we'll push to make sure that it also runs on our CI build here. Okay. So here's the test, right? Run these ones. Make sure that works. How's the weather in the UK, by the way? Is it do you have a warm summer now, or is it a cold summer? Rainy summer? Raining, yeah. We had like just enormous amount of rain the last few weeks here, and thunderstorms. Okay, this broke, which is interesting. Connected index. Okay. Okay, so we have an issue with adding those to that. That was good that we ran this test then. Specify on delete on action. Okay. So the issue here is the cascade delete. We haven't set that up properly, I think. And that's fine. We can fix that. So if you look at the error message again here, saying we're gonna get cyclic references. Because now we have like this cyclic dependency. Update. So we'll go ahead and change that. That shouldn't be too bad. We can do that. We have to change that in our configuration for this one right here, I think, to make sure that we have this properly set up. So I think, let me see, it was a while ago since I did this last time. I think it's something like entity registered model. Is it on delete or what is it called? Forget the syntax here. Cascade delete EF core. What is the syntax for this? I know they changed that to behaviors, I think, right? Entity maps here. Let's see. Offloading entities. Delete behavior. Why can't I see that? Here you go. Fluent API on delete. Is that what it's called? Has one many is required. Okay. So let's change this here. Okay, so we have to set up our entities Okay, so let's go ahead and change that, I guess. So we have to set up how we work with our relationships here. So in our case here, right, it's going to be has one for is it I have to do, okay, we have in our case one run, right? With in our case we only have one registered model, right, per run. But that's okay. And yeah, I know. So what I'm thinking right now is the fact that we don't have a foreign key to a registered model on a run, and we can probably put that up there and specify that here. Otherwise we have to do shadow properties. Is that okay? Okay, good, that's fine. So we'll do shadow properties right now. We don't need to specify that, and that's okay. So okay, delete behavior is going to be restrict. So if you remove a registered model, what we're trying to say here is that we don't want to remove the run, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to remove the run because we remove a registered model. Okay, that's fine, right? Okay, so I'll copy this out because we don't want that to be here. When I'm quiet, I'm thinking, if you're wondering. Can't hear my own voice then. Okay, so sorry about that. So this should be good. So now we have the experiment 2, and make sure we don't get cascade delete on that, and wire these things up properly. All right, that should work. That should work just fine, I think. Let's see if we can get this working again. We're gonna drop the database to make sure that we have a fresh system here. I think this is the most fun thing about working on open source things and hobby projects. I'm not sure if maybe Brett and Mitchell you can agree or disagree, but is that you get to learn a lot of new things that you don't do with your clients, and you get to explore those things if you want to. For example, learning more about these kind of Cosmos stuff and constraints and how to run testing containers. It's a lot of things I've learned personally by working on this project that I just didn't get to do with my client. So it's fun. That's good, I'm glad, Mitchell. Have you tried BDD test, by the way, SpecFlow and Selenium? If you haven't, you should look them up. That's adds the most value for us, at least. That's awesome. Glad to hear that, Brett. Alright, one more test failing and then we are good almost. What is this? Should register with higher version? Yeah, I agree. Team buy-in and business buy-in is always tough, right? Took us about half a year to get some of those things for us. Okay, so we have... okay, so currently it thinks that experiment ID needs to be unique, and that's not true, and it's probably because of my fault right here. A run should only have one registered model, right? But experiment should have many. So we can have many registered models for a run. So this is good. We get to set that up here. So that's probably why that failed. Great test, honestly. That really saved us from that issue in production. Okay, and that makes it also very explicit on like what I want to achieve here. Let's run these again and see if that works. Yeah, we have those BD tests in a way, and they're like very like explicit, given when then, and it's really easy to read like business rules because we have like a retirement system that we do with lots of calculations and stuff, and it helps us to understand how it should work. It's been really good for us. Come on, let's work, please. Green, 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 green. Nice. All right, I'm going to push these changes to our branch, and let's wait for the CI build to complete. Good job, guys. Thank you very much for helping out today, by the way. It's been awesome. I had tons of fun. Okay, we add documentation here. Thank you for that suggestion. All right. I see. Yeah. All right. Added integration tests. Alright, let's push it up and let's wait for our CI build to complete and see if there's anything we're missing here, because there may be something we have not done yet or something else has been broken here in our CI pipeline, so we want to make sure that's working. Push that up, perfect. Let's go ahead and look at this PR. Quite a bit of changes for sure. Okay, we're kicking that off. Gonna change this to not work in progress anymore. I think that's all we wanted to add. I don't think we wanted to add anything else. So, oh, actually, one of our tests is. I'm surprised that one of the tests works. Did you remember this test, by the way? We can wait for the CI build to complete, but like, this loading our dependencies test is passing, which is very interesting. Because I feel like I should have failed, right? Where did I go? Like, I don't expect... Why is this passing? Because we're not setting these anymore, we're setting them on the actual one, right? Is it because we're actually loading them and then that just happens to be a thing here? Well, the thing is we're not populating them on the artifact anymore, right? We're getting the artifacts like this, and then we're populating the run and experiment on a registered model. We're not populating the run artifact itself. See? And in our tests, what we're actually doing is we're verifying the run artifact run experiment. So that's an interesting thing. I wouldn't expect that. It seems like once we actually got those, this populated by itself, which is strange. So while the CI build runs, I want to run this one real quick, and then I want to see if we can just add a test to make sure that the other ones are properly set, right? I'm just surprised. I didn't expect that to happen. It may be an EF core thing, like if you already loaded this entity, then you see here that this run artifact is not null. That's okay, but we see as well that a run is not null, and experiment is not null. So that is just not what I expected. And if you look at the run registered model here, we also have the run here and the experiment because we loaded them explicitly. So it looks like that's actually pretty cool. I like that. So if you actually load them once, we don't need to set them everywhere because by default it would be set. I think so. I think that's exactly right, Mitchell. It's because of the relationship is set, and that makes me wonder a bit if we actually don't need to use include here, but just set the relationships and it's going to be populated by itself. Let me try something here real quick here. Let me try not to populate this and see if we set it by default here. So let's just comment this out real quick here. This is just a test myself here. Let's not set this, and let's see if we're lucky enough to have these sets as well. Now we're not populating anything right anymore. We're just going to see if these get set anyway. I'm just curious if configuring the relationships is going to actually do this for us. So if you go in here, I want to make sure we don't do anything. I think I commented out right. So right now they're here. We haven't populated anything. No, okay, it's null. So it won't do it by default. Well, we didn't set the registered model here. Let's see. What's this? No, okay. Okay, well, it doesn't seem to be the configuration definitely sets it, but we still need to use populating it to actually work as expected here. That is okay. Alright, let's look at the CI pipeline here. Is it working? It passed. Perfect. Alright. Is it ready for a review? Thanks. Nice. Alright. Well, with that, we have actually completed this PR. So a big milestone for us, honestly, because we have added the ability to register models and understand how that works, couple run artifacts to that, which is going to be useful because now we can start looking at deployment environments and those things to kind of deploy these models to, as well as showing it in a UI eventually as well. So that's really nice. Brett, Mitch, and everyone else on the stream, thank you very much for joining in today. I had a blast as always. You have been very, very helpful, honestly, to get this done and to completion today. And Brett, I look forward to that PR with the labels on the models. And if you feel like reviewing this PR, I would be more than happy for you to do that. Thank you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And I will see you next Saturday, if not before that. So have a great time, guys. Thank you.